Guys, the Bench Buddies are back with my Week 10 NCAA football power rankings. Huge week last week, five ranked matchups, so lots of movement this week in this week's rankings. And because of that, you get four teams dropping from the rankings. Missouri, obviously, after getting blown out by Alabama, didn't even score a point. Don't know how they're still ranked in the AP poll. I'm dropping Illinois. Kind of same thing. Got blown out to Oregon. Navy, it was a good run, but this team just fell apart in their biggest game of the year against Notre Dame. They didn't show up. But Vanderbilt, they're definitely the 26th team in my rankings here, as they lost a tough one to Texas at home, and that was a great game, but they just couldn't pull through. And if they win that game, this team, Vandy team, still a very good team. They got a lot of good games in front of them that they could pull off some upsets and possibly wreak havoc on the SEC. Then the others receiving votes is Arkansas. They're the team that joins this company, and Arkansas obviously has a win over Tennessee. They're playing some good football right now in the SEC, so maybe they could be another team that really destroys the SEC standings and can really make a push at the end of the year. 25 through 21, this is where you find the teams where I don't think you would really expect these teams to be in the rankings at this point in the season. You got SMU, Washington State, and especially Tulane. Those teams are starting to figure it out and win games, and SMU even winning in overtime at Duke. Almost lost that one at the end of regulation on a missed field goal, but they found a way to win. And now they get Pittsburgh. That's a huge game in ACC play and also for playoff implications. Washington State scrapes by SDSU. They go into a bye week 7-1. Very happy with that. How that goes, they possibly could get a playoff spot. Memphis scrapes by Charlotte. They get UTSA on the road. Memphis is finding ways to win ball games. Their only loss is to Navy this year. And Memphis, let's say they go 11-1, they definitely have a chance to get into the playoff. Same with Tulane, 6-2, 4-0 in conference play. They could win out in conference play and be a sneaky team that could get in. Then how about those Buffs? Win by 11 against Cincinnati. Travis Hunter, Big 12 player of the week for both offense and defense. And they go into a bye 6-2. I think they are very happy with where they are at. Wouldn't be surprised if this team finishes 9-3. And I think really has a decent chance of making the playoff at this point in the season. They just got to play well in these last few games. 16 through 20, the team that I was riding high on, LSU, falls in an ugly game. How they were really commanding it in the first half, and then Texas A&M switched quarterbacks, and it was all over from there. So they're going into this week's bye week, really reflecting on that week's performance and coming out. And I think they play Alabama or Georgia, some top team in the SEC. So it's a huge game there. Boise State scrapes by UNLV, but a win is a win, and they look like the heavyweight favorites in the Mountain West. You get San Diego State at home, should take care of them. Pitt, like I said, gets SMU on the road. Huge game. They really proved me wrong. That's why I'm moving them up two spots. I thought Syracuse was going to upset them, and they didn't. They showed out very well. Picked off Kyle McCord 4 times, three pick sixes. So Pitt is clicking on all cylinders right now. Army comes out of the bye week facing Air Force. Probably should get to 8-0 there. And then Kansas State scrapes by Kansas. And I'm moving them down too, switching them with Pitt because, undefeated, not undefeated, and barely winning a game versus domination. Kind of a no-brainer for me there. 11 through 15, all these teams stay the same here. And 11 and 12, Tennessee and Clemson, very happy with where they're at. They're coming out of the bye weeks. Louisville, Kentucky, I think games that they can easily win, but it could be a tough challenge. They are both at home, so I definitely expect them to do that. Notre Dame stays at 13, demolishing Navy on the road, really capitalizing off of Navy's turnovers. They kind of got spotted 14 in the first quarter, Notre Dame did, and they never really looked back from there. They have a few big games coming up as well, Notre Dame does. So as long as they're getting battle tested right now, and as long as they can keep finding ways to win, it wouldn't shock me if Notre Dame makes the playoffs. Bama responds very well after their loss to Tennessee. What do? They come back and blow out Missouri 34-0. Bye week 6-2, 3-2 in conference play. Outside chance of the SEC championship, but they're still playing good football right now, and they got some games in front of them where they can possibly shake up the standings and do, what Alabama does best, somehow find a way to the SEC championship. Where Ole Miss, I don't know, I'm starting to write this team off. I think they should have beat Oklahoma by more than 12. They go on the road, face Arkansas. And like I said earlier, I think Arkansas still has a good chance to possibly make some noise in the SEC. So that's a game I'm definitely looking forward to this week, that Ole Miss Arkansas game, because I think whoever wins that game obviously your chances are still alive, but if you lose that game, I think they're probably going to be out of the SEC championship game. 6 through 10, and Iowa State stays at 10 out of the bye week. Makes sense, right? They get Texas Tech at home, still 7-0. A&M moves all the way into the top 10 from 16 to 9 after their win over LSU. Now they have quarterback questions moving forward, but they find ways to win, and that's what you need after their week 1 loss to Notre Dame. They are 7-0, playing some really good football. Get South Carolina this week, should take care of them. Not a good SEC team this year. Have been kind of decent at some times, but I think Texas A&M probably is going to beat them. Texas goes in the bye week, really needing that bye week, reflecting on the last 2 weeks, getting demolished by Georgia, almost losing to Vandy on the road. Much needed bye week for Steve Sarkisian and company. BYU moves up one, and the UCF game wasn't really too exciting. I mean, they did what they had to do to win that game, but they're 8-0, 5-0 in conference play, heading to the bye week, thrilled with where they're at. And Indiana, I think, is the storybook team this year. 31-17 win over Washington. Played well in this one. And they get Michigan State on the road coming off the loss to Michigan. Michigan State, I think this is a game for them where they have nothing to lose, so they're probably going to give Indiana their best. Where Indiana, they just keep finding ways to win, and that's why I keep moving them up because another win, 8-0. Sooner or later, Indiana could end up at number 1 in my rankings here if a few teams fall and they keep on winning. At 5 through 1, the top 3 stay the same. I think that makes too much sense. Obviously, Oregon beating a ranked team by 31 or 29 at home. No, my math isn't mathing. No, it is 29. They beat them by 29. And they get Michigan on the road, only 14.5 point favorites. As a Michigan fan, I definitely would take Oregon there. Penn State, it wasn't a sexy game, but they did what they had to do. Typical Penn State football in this one, going into Wisconsin, getting the win there. But obviously the biggest game of the week, Penn State, Ohio State. If James Franklin can win this game at home and show up, maybe they're going to start to turn a page there. James Franklin is in beating ranked opponents, and I think that's what everybody's looking at this week. Georgia comes out of the bye facing Florida in Jacksonville. Obviously, huge rivalry game there, but Georgia should blow them out. Miami blew out Florida State. They're the winners of Florida, I guess you could say. They own Florida this year after beating all the Florida teams, and they get Duke. Duke, gave SMU a heart attack last week, but didn't get the win there. Miami, I expect them to really handle Duke this week at home, especially coming off of that rivalry game. But it could be a letdown game as well. So you never know with this Miami team. And then obviously I'm moving Ohio State down 1 because that win against Nebraska was very cause for concern. I just don't know what to say. I think you see Nebraska get absolutely throttled by Indiana the week before by 49 points, and you're thinking, well, Ohio State's probably better than Indiana, so it should be kind of the same result. Well, Ohio State was losing in the fourth quarter by 3, score that late touchdown, then get a few stops, and you win that game. And I don't think Ohio State fans can be pleased with that win. So to really prove to me, and I think to a lot of people, Ohio State is a very good team this year. They're going to have to go into College Station and win this game. And if they can go in, beat Penn State, I don't know if it's a whiteout game. It should be a whiteout game because Penn State always plays well during whiteout games. If they can win that game, Ohio State, they're definitely moving right on back up. And Penn State, if they win that game, staying at 2, and I think going to be very happy for the rest of the year that they beat Ohio State, and they're in the driver's seat at this point. That's going to be it for my Week 10 power rankings. Check back next week to see where your team ranks, if they are in the rankings. If not, maybe they'll join the rankings next week. But until next time, the Bench Buddies are out.